Hello everyone, my name is Drgdsharma and you are watching English, and in this video we are going to explain some of the important questions on William Wordsworth and his works. These questions have been already asked in various examinations of TGT and PGT. Besides, you will get to know some of the important points related to these questions and their comprehensive explanation. So let us start this video. The very first question is, which of the following is mismatched? This question was asked in PGT 2016, UP PGT. So William Wordsworth, the green linnet, William Wordsworth to the cuckoo, William Wordsworth to the skylark, and William Wordsworth to a skylark. And the correct answer is, it is D. William Wordsworth did not compose To a Skylark. To a Skylark was composed by P.B. Shelley, and it was rather Ode to a Skylark. The rest of the poems have been composed by William Wordsworth. Green linnet was composed in 1815, and linnet is a kind of small bird and it is related to finch family. This bird is very welcoming in May, as May is the happiest month in Western culture or in European continent. So this linnet is a welcoming bird there. William Wordsworth believes that this linnet provides wisdom, and as such he is addressing this linnet bird in this poem, the green linnet. So it is a bird of wisdom. A bird of wisdom gives words of wisdom. The poem is written in iambic tetrameter. It has 5 stanzas and 5 stanzas of 8 lines each. The rhyming scheme is AB AB CC CB, A B C C C B. This is the rhyme scheme of this poem. Iambic tetra means short syllable followed by long syllable and in the pair of 4 feet. So 4 feet, short syllable followed by long syllable. The poem was written to praise and celebrate the joys and beauty of nature. Written to praise the joy and beauty of nature. So here in this poem, The Green Linnet, the poet presents his praise, or he praises the joy, the beauty of nature. As the opening lines themselves suggest, hail to thee far above the rest, in joy of voice and pinion. These are the opening lines and the famous lines of this poem, The Green Linnet. The poem was published in 2 volumes, 1807 and 1837. Ode to Cuckoo is also the poem of joy. It is addressed as O blithe newcomer, darling of the summer, where he addresses this cuckoo as a blithe newcomer. Blithe means happy. This is kind of lyrical pastoral poem. This is also called ode to cuckoo. It is written in iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter, combination of iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter. So this is in the combination of these 2 meters. It is written in the rhyming scheme of AB, and it is of 8 stanzas of 4 lines each. The lines that are in odd numbers, odd lines, they are written in iambic tetrameter, and the lines in iambic tetrameter, they are in even line. That is to say, first and the third line, they are in iambic tetrameter, and second and the fourth line, they are in iambic trimeter. So this is the arrangement of this poem. So like the green linnet, here in the poem Ode to the Cuckoo, William Wordsworth presents the joy of nature, the beauty of nature. It is regarded as the poem of joy even, and it deals with the pastoral setting, the rural background, the natural sights, and the happiness that lies in the nature, and that is described by the happy song of the cuckoo. Meanwhile, let me tell you that the online learning platform Unacademy is excited to launch the most competitive gamified NTA UGC Net battle, Combat. This will be on 31st of January at 11 am. You will here discover the features of Unacademy Combat, like extensive combats that cover every single subject, real-time leaderboards after every questions to keep learners going, questions curated by Unacademy's best NTA UGC Net educators, personalized scoring and rating to help you constantly measure your progress, and detailed video solutions after every contest so that you get it right the next time. So this is India's largest fortnightly competition for NTA NET examinations. Here you can assess your NTA NET preparation for paper 1 in 60 minutes. It will have challenging and original questions It will be live, so you can compete with the best. So you can identify and improve your weak areas through detailed video solutions. This will be on every alternate Sunday. So you can register right now. You can use my code ENGLIT to unlock this kind of series. And if you get your subscription today by using my code, you will get extra 10% off. So start your preparation and complete courses for paper 1 and 2. To the Skylark is also an ode composed by Wordsworth, and it appreciates the quality of Skylark to maintain an equilibrium between sky and earth. So it is a praise of Skylark to maintain the equilibrium between sky and earth. So the skylark, it reaches to the height of zenith, that is the sky, and at the same time it keeps the touch with the earth. So it seems to be maintaining a relation between the sky and the earth, an equilibrium between these two entities of the universe. So the poem is very short one. It is merely of 2 stanzas of 6 lines each. The rhyming scheme is ABABCC, and here it has been addressed as ethereal minstrel, pilgrim of the sky. So the question can be asked from different perspective as well. Which of the birds is addressed as ethereal minstrel or the pilgrim of the sky referred to in the poems of Wordsworth? So is it the green linnet or the cuckoo or the skylark? So ethereal minstrel or the pilgrim of the sky is the name or the attribute given to skylark. Cuckoo has been addressed as blithe newcomer. An ode to a skylark is written by P.B. Shelley, as I've told you. This was published in 1820, and here it has been referred to as or addressed as blithe spirit. So there is a kind of similarity in all these 4 poems. 3 have been composed by Wordsworth, where the different kinds of birds have been addressed differently. So there is a kind of similarity in all these poems. They have been praised for their beautiful song, for their universal appeal, for their praise of nature. So the questions can be asked variously. It is rather a long poem. It consists of 21 stanzas of 5 lines each. And out of those 5 lines, first 4 lines, they are in trochaic trimeter, and the 5th line iambic hexameter. Iambic hexameter is also known as Alexandrian. The rhyming scheme is AB, AB. So these first 4 lines in trochaic trimeter. Trochaic trimeter is long syllable followed by short syllable in the feet, in the 3 feet. So it is 6 syllable lines in the pattern of long syllable followed by short syllable. And there the last line, the 5th line of every stanza is iambic hexameter. Blithe Spirit is also the name or the title of the novel by Noel Coward. The title of the novel is Blithe Spirit. So it has been taken from this poem of P.V. Shelley, Ode to the Skylark. The work Shelley's Skylark or the poem Shelley's Skylark was composed by Thomas Hardy. So there is a separate poem Shelley's Skylark composed by Thomas Hardy. The poem is very famous for the lines "We look before and after and pines for what is not. Our sincerest laughter is with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are that tellest the saddest thoughts." Next question. The correct order of the publication of these works is An Evening Walk, the Prelude, Lyrical Ballads, the Excursion. So which is the correct chronological order in which these works have been published? And according to these options, actually none of these options is correct. The proper order should be that was the first poem. It was published in 1793, and then comes Lyrical Ballads that was published in 1798, and then there is the Excursion that was published in 1814, and then there is last the Prelude, as you know, it was published in 1850. It was completed in 1805, but it was not published until the death of William Wordsworth. So none of these options is correct according to this order, the chronological order. The B option is closer. If we consider this prelude by its date of completion. It was completed in 1805. So perhaps when this option was given, this thing may have been in the mind of that person, the paper setter. However, it is a wrong option, except none of the option is even closer. So first evening walk, second lyrical ballads, and then the excursion, and lastly the prelude. Next question, in which poem of Wordsworth does the line "Our birth is but a sleep, a forgetting" occur? Was it Tintin, the Prelude, the Recluse, the Immortality Ode? The correct answer is it was Immortality Ode. The line occurred. The complete stanza runs like "Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting, not in entire forgetfulness and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God who is our home." So here he presents his belief that life on earth is dim shadow of an earlier, purer existence. However, it is dimly recalled in childhood and then it is forgotten in the process of growing up. So when we are born, we carry with us some dim glimpses of an earlier life. So here he is presenting his belief of transmigration of soul. When a child is born, he has the reminiscences, the remembrances, and the glimpse of his heavenly abode or his previous existence. As long as he remains pure and pristine, he reflects the remembrances of the previous birth. But these glimpses, these heavenly glimpses, are forgotten in the process of his growing up. As he grows, he tends to forget all about his previous birth and his heavenly existence. Poet is reflecting on this aspect. Intimations of Immortality is also musical work. This is a musical work by Gerald Finzi. So the Immortality Ode is famously known as simply Ode or Immortality Ode, or it has been called by the critics as Great Ode. The poem was completed in 1804 and published in Poems in the anthology Poems in 2 volumes in 1807. The first edition of the poems in 2 volumes was published in 1807, and here in this volume it was published. It was completed in 1804. Completed in 1804 and published in 1807. When it was published in 1807, the title was merely Ode. It was then reworked and re-edited, and in the edition of 1815, after rewriting or remodeling or reworking, it was published as Ode Intimations of Immortality. So first it was published as simply Ode, and then it was published as Intimations of Immortality. Ode, Intimations of Immortality. It is irregular Pindaric ode. It is irregular because the number of lines in each stanzas they vary. That's why it is irregular. And it is Pindaric, so it is somewhat contrasting element even. Pindaric ode is supposed to have a separate system. In the terms of movement, as Pindaric ode has three movements: strophe, antistrophe, and epode. So the poem is also in three parts. Three parts, they reflect three different movements: strophe like, antistrophe like, and epode. Strophe means clockwise, antistrophe means anti-clockwise, and epode means static. So Pindaric ode is sung when the group of players or the singers, they move clockwise, so this part is called strophe. When these members they move anti-clockwise, it is antistrophe, and when they remain static, so that part is called epode. So these three movements have also been dealt with in this poem Immortality Ode. That's why it is irregular Pindaric ode. It is in 11 stanzas. Why they are irregular? Because they don't follow the same number of lines. So the poem gives his most complete account of the balance sheet of maturity. It is simply a record of the profit and the loss of growing up. So here this line can be given as the question, and you can be asked which poem is referred to in this line, in this statement. So we can get confused between Tintern Abbey and Immortality Ode. In Tintern Abbey, he has also dealt with his moods, his growing up, and one more poem is about growing up, that is Prelude. So we can get confused which poem is basically referred to in this statement, or which poem of Wordsworth is his record of the profit and loss of growing up. So when we comprehend this poem, we can get the clue that he is talking about the profit and the loss of growing up. Why it is a loss? Because we tend to forget our heavenly bliss, heavenly experience, heavenly reminiscences or remembrances. So with the passage of time, when we grow up, we tend to forget. This is a loss. And what we gain? We gain the sense of empathy. We develop a sense of empathy towards nature. We come to know that nature turns out to be our anchor, our guide, and we develop an empathy with it. This completes our being. We get a philosophical view of nature with the passage of growing up. So this is a profit. So these kind of things are dealt with only in this Immortality Ode. Next question. In which poem does Wordsworth write, "Come forth into the light of things. Let nature be your teacher"? This question was asked in PGT 2011. Was this the poem "The Table Turned"? "The World is Too Much With Us"? "I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud"? Or "The Solitary Reaper"? And the correct answer is A. It was Table Turn. Table Turn was published in 1798 in the famous collection Lyrical Ballads. It is about the importance of nature. As William Wordsworth is a poet of nature, so in every of his poem he has given the very different view of nature, the important view of nature. And he seems to be saying that books are just barren leaves that provide empty knowledge, and that nature is best teacher, which can teach more about human evil and good. This is a poem of 8 ballad stanzas and it is worth 32 lines merely. So it is comparatively short poem. Ballad stanza is A, B, C, B. So there are 8 these stanzas having this rhyming scheme. The subtitle of the poem is "An Evening Scene on the Same Subject." An evening scene on the same subject. Tables turned, an evening scene with the same on the same subject. The World is Too Much With Us is a sonnet. Sonnet about the importance of nature and its preference of nature to the worldly and temporal scenes or temporal life, where he says the world is too much with us, getting and spending. We lay waste our powers, little we see nature that is ours. So it is about the human tendency to fall a victim of the worldliness and their negligence of nature, where they can get the complete solace and satisfaction and the meaning of their existence. However, they are getting dominated by the worldliness, the temporalness, so which is just unhealthy for human existence. So he deals with this issue in "The World is Too Much With Us" sonnet. "I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud" was published as Daffodils even. Daffodils is a lyrical poem, is a lyric. It was published in 1807, poems in 2 volumes. This was a famous collection of poems. The most famous collection of William Wordsworth is Lyrical Ballads. Then comes 1807, poems in 2 volumes, first edition, and 1815, second edition of poems in 2 volumes, and it deals with his theory or poetic theory, emotions recollected in tranquility. So the poetic creed or the poetic theory of William Wordsworth, that poetry is emotions recollections in tranquility. Solitary Reaper is also lyric or a lyrical ballad kind. It's a kind of ballad that is lyrical. It was also published in 1807. Poems in 2 volumes. Consists of 4 8-line stanzas. It is written in iambic tetrameter. Iambic tetrameter means short syllable followed by long syllable in the pairs of 4 feet. Means 8 line means 8 syllable line in the pattern of unstressed followed by stressed syllable. The rhyming scheme is AB, AB, CC, DD. Next question. In which poem has Wordsworth describes different moods of nature? Is it Daffodils, lines written above Tintern Abbey, An Evening Walk, The Excursion? The correct answer is the lines above Tintern Abbey. Here in this poem he has described his different mood. In this poem William Wordsworth gives most succinct of Wordsworth. The poem gives most succinct of William Wordsworth's account of the development of his attitude to nature that moves from the animal pleasure of childhood through adolescence, passion for the wild and gloomy to the adult awareness of the relation of our perceptions of the natural world to our sense of human and moral world. So he describes the development of his own love of nature from coarser pleasure of boyhood through aching joys and dizzy raptures of young manhood to more reflective, moral, philosophic pleasure of maturity that is informed by the still sad music of humanity. So here he moves from coarser pleasure of boyhood, rough pleasure, phenomenal pleasure when it was a feat to watch, the pleasure of boyhood when he was sportive, when he was playful in nature, and the second mood shifted through the aching joys and dizzy raptures of young manhood. When he turned into manhood, so he felt transported out of himself. And then the third stage is when he started reflecting upon the philosophic pleasure of maturity. When he became mature and then he reflected upon the philosophic aspect of nature. When he started associating his own existence with the existence of nature. So in that particular stage, we can say that he achieved pantheism. So three different moods of boyhood, of manhood, and of maturity. When he understood the sad music of humanity, when he started associating himself with the existence of nature. So these three moods, different moods have been dealt with in this poem only. Tintin Abbey was published in Lyrical Ballads of 1798. It is the last poem of Lyrical Ballads, the first poem being The Rime of Ancient Mariner. This was the first poem and this was the last poem of Lyrical Ballads. There were 23 poems in all, 4 by Coleridge and 19 by William Wordsworth. Next question. In his quest for true significance of life on its simpler levels, Wordsworth resembles George Crabb, William Cowper, William Blake, Robert Burns. The correct answer is it was George Crabb who resembled Wordsworth in their significance of life and their simpler level. The question was asked in TGT 2004. George Crabb, as we know that he was a writer of common life, writer or poet of common life, and he shares many things with Wordsworth as far as the treatment of rustic pastoral life, its simplicity. Moreover, he was friend to William Wordsworth as well. His important poems are The Village that was published in 1783 and The Burrow that was published in 1810. He is basically known for these two important and famous poems. Actually, it was Francis Joffre, the critic Francis Joffre, when he was reviewing Crabb's poems in 1808. So he says that these gentlemen, Wordsworth, Coleridge, and Sade, write a great deal about rustic life as well as Mr. Crabb, and they even agree with him in dwelling much on its discomforts. He again says Wordsworth and Crabb both chose to write on village school matters and on frail damsels. So here in the review of this Francis Joffre, we can get the clue that George Crabb and William Wordsworth had lot to do similarly. They wrote on the same subject, they dealt with the same kind of rustic life, and then the kind of treatment that they gave to nature was also similar. So they were quite similar in the treatment of nature and the rustic life. Next question. Who among the following is the interpreter of nature in many moods? William Wordsworth, William Shakespeare, William Pitt, William Butler Yeats. So the answer is quite simple as we are dealing with William Wordsworth in this question, in this video. The answer is William Wordsworth, and where it is said, where he is said to be the interpreter of nature. So it was Davy Ulrich in his book Interpreter of Nature that he said about Wordsworth that he was the interpreter of nature in many moods. As we know that for William Wordsworth, poetry was primarily the record of certain state of mind, and the value of poetry for him lay in the value of the state of mind which the poem recorded. So that's why he's supposed to be the interpreter of nature. Because for him, poetry was merely a record of certain states of mind. He recorded various states of his mind that we have dealt with in the previous questions or in the poems like Tintin Abbey. So the poems, they record certain states of mind. And for him, the value of poetry lies in the value of a state of mind, which has been recorded in the poem itself. True value of poetry for William Wordsworth is the value of states of mind that have been captured in the poem, that have been recorded in the poem, and as such he interprets or he explains nature in various moods. So he is none other than William Wordsworth. Next question. The lines "bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, but to be young was very heaven" occur in the poems of William Wordsworth, William Shakespeare, John Milton, Christopher Marlowe. So it is simple question. It is in the poem of William Wordsworth. The answer is quite easy as we are dealing with this lecture William Wordsworth. So in the poem of William Wordsworth this line occurred, but the important thing is not William Wordsworth who composed this line, where it was composed. So it was in the poem French Revolution. It was chiefly known as French Revolution. The complete title is As It Appeared to the Enthusiasts at its commencement. So the poem is French Revolution as it appeared to the enthusiast at its commencement. When French Revolution was started, so how it was taken by the enthusiasts or the revolutionary. The poem is all about that. There is also one other poem, The French Revolution. The French Revolution is composed by William Blake. So you will have to be very cautious about dealing with French Revolution and the French of Revolution. French Revolution has been composed by William Wordsworth and the French Revolution has been composed by William Blake. It was in 7 books. This was published in 1791 and this particular poem was completed in Poems in 2 volumes, 1815 edition. It was written in Dop Cottage, Grasmere in 1804. So it was written in 1804 and it was published in 1815 separately. There is also a reference of utopia as a subterranean field. So the reference of utopia as a subterranean field was there in which of the following poems of William Wordsworth can be the question for you. So in the poem French Revolution by William Wordsworth, the mention or the reference of utopia was there. The very first line is very important. Oh, pleasant exercise of hope and joy. So French Revolution, the commencement of this French Revolution was a pleasant exercise of hope and joy. It had a new hope, it had a new kind of joy for all the enthusiasts. And William Wordsworth was one of those enthusiasts as well. Next question, William Wordsworth Prelude was completed in 1800, 1822, 1805, 1825. The question was there in PGT 2003. The correct answer is it was completed in 1805. It was published in 1850 and it was completed in 1805. Prelude is also called Growth of Poet's Mind. This is the subtitle. This is an autobiographical and it was written in blank verse and it is addressed to, this is important fact, St. Coleridge. So there can be a question as to who was addressed in the poem The Prelude. So it is none other than St. Coleridge. There can be one of the options of Dorothy Wordsworth. We can get confused because in many of the poems of William Wordsworth there is the addressee Dorothy Wordsworth and in some of them the addressee is St. Coleridge. These two people were very close to his heart. So this particular poem Prelude was addressed to St. Coleridge. The poem began in 1798 and 99 and two-part version was composed in 1799 and the complete draft in 13 books was finished in 1805. This is to be kept in mind when the complete draft was finished of this prelude. So it was completed only in 13 books when it was completed in 1805. However, it was recommended, remodeled, reworked And after reworking, remodeling or editing, the complete work was published in 14 books in 1850. This thing has to be kept in mind. When it was completed in 1805, it was in 13 books, and when it was published in 1850, it was in 14 books. The present title, The Prelude, was suggested by his sister Dorothy Wordsworth. Dorothy Wordsworth suggested the title The Prelude. The poem can be adequately his gift for the egotistical sublime. He is supposed to be, or he is said to be, egotistical sublime by John Keats. This is very much characterized in this poem, The Prelude, because of his grand treatment of his own life, his own development, his own perspective towards nature. He has given a very magnificent or grand description of the development of his mind, of his life towards nature. That's why it is egotistical sublime. Actually, Prelude was originally planned to be the introduction of the first part of the recluse. The recluse, which was never completed, it did not come in its finished form. So the present poem, Prelude, was supposed to be its, or planned to be its, introduction. Next question. Wordsworth's The Borderers comes under the category of prose tragedy, verse tragedy, epic or ode. So it was verse tragedy, it was verse drama, and it was his only drama, only venture in the field of dramatic poetry, in the field of drama. Actually, England's declaration of war against France shocked him sorely, shocked William Wordsworth. However, the terror or the violence of the war and French Revolution shocked him even more deeply, and he came to realize the disillusion and the depressing effect of warfare on him. The enthusiasm with which he joined French Revolution, he praised or hailed French Revolution, but the horrors of war and the terrors of war and the vagaries of war, the violence of this war shocked him. He did not anticipate this thing. So he was deeply distressed, disillusioned, disappointed in warfare. And this depression and disappointment is reflected in these borders, in this drama. It was composed in 1796 and 97, and it was published in 1842. So it was completed in or written in 1796 and 97, and it's published in 1842. So it is a tragedy, as is clear, in 5 acts, and it was written in blank verse. Hence it is verse drama. When it was published, the appendixes present 2 poems associated with the play, the drama. So these poems were Gothic Tale, that was fragmentary, and Argument of Suicide. The opening scene was set on a road in the wood with 2 characters, Wallace and Lacey. Next question. Who refers to William Wordsworth as an ever-enduring man? Was it Dr. Johnson, Thomas De Quincey, John Keats, or is it S.T. Coleridge? The correct answer is S.T. Coleridge. S.T. Coleridge referred to William Wordsworth as an ever-enduring man in his poem To William Wordsworth. Here he addresses him in the first line, friend of the wise and teacher of the good. So in the very opening line of the poem, he addresses William Wordsworth as friend of the wise and teacher of the good. He also addresses him as O great bard. So as William Shakespeare is called the bard, William Wordsworth is also addressed as O great bard by S.T. Coleridge, and also as an ever-enduring man. He is also addressed as sage bard or great bard. This poem was written by Coleridge in response to the autobiographical poem of Wordsworth, that is The Prelude. So in the response of the poem, The Prelude, S.T. Coleridge composed this poem to William Wordsworth, and this was published in 1806. Here S.T. Coleridge praises William Wordsworth and his poetic ability. It was first published in 1817, and when it was titled as Sibylline Leaves. However, it was later renamed as to William Wordsworth in 1834. The full title of the poem is To William Wordsworth, composed on the night after his recitation of poem on the growth of an individual mind. So this title was given in 1834. When it was first published in 1817, the title was given Sibylline Leaves. Next question, who has written Peter Bell among the following? William Wordsworth, Shakespeare, John Galsworthy, John Milton. The correct answer, William Wordsworth. Peter Bell was written in 1798 and it was published with a dedication to Robert Southey in 1819. Peter Bell or Bell is a lawless potter and who is insensible to the beauty of nature. And this lawless potter comes to the bank of Swale, the river Swale, and he sees a donkey that was lonely, alone, and he desires to steal it. Peter Bell desires to steal this donkey. Donkey was gazing into the water at some object, and when it was closely watched, the object turned out to be the body or the dead body of its owner. Peter Bell then comes near the donkey and he starts taking it. He mounts it, and the donkey leads him to the cottage of a drowned man's widow, the widow of its owner. However, in this process, Peter Bell seems to be a reformed man. He undergoes a very philosophical change. The process makes him a very reformed man. So the poem is all about this. P.B. Shelley has also written Peter Bell III, and it is a satirical poem, and it parodies means makes fun of this Peter Bell of William Wordsworth. And Peter Bell II was composed by John Keats. Next question, who is the writer of the Recluse? Shakespeare, Milton, Galsworthy, Wordsworth. The correct answer is William Wordsworth. And what is about the Recluse? Recluse was Wordsworth's bigger enterprise, which was never completed. It was never completed. Only one of its three projected parts. It was projected in 3 parts. However, one of these 3 projected parts was completed. One part was only actually written, and this one part was known as the Excursion, and that was published in 1814. Excursion was a long poem on man, on nature, and on human life. So this part was only completed. First book of the first part of that projected work, The Recluse. It was Home at Grasmere. The first book of the first part. It was left in manuscript by William Wordsworth himself, and it was published in extenso In extenso means at full length. So the manuscript of this first book of first part was entitled as Home at Grasmere, and the manuscript was left by William Wordsworth, and it was published in 1888. Second part was second part, the Excursion. Third part was only planned. It was not even started. First part and its first book. It was also unfinished. Only the first book in fragmented form was there. It was entitled Home at Grasmere, and the manuscript of this was left by William Wordsworth himself. And it was published in extenso in 1888. Second part was the Excursion, and third part was never written. It was merely planned. So that is all for now. Hopefully this video has added something to your present knowledge of William Wordsworth and his works. The questions I have dealt with and their comprehensive explanation along with the important facts will certainly help you in your preparation for upcoming examinations of TGT and PGT and other various examinations like UPGIC as well. So keep watching, like this video, share it among your friends, and do subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed to it so far. Thanks for watching.